Hello, thank you so much for joining me. My name is Chris Cook and I'm a relationship coach. Today I'm going to be talking about the importance of emotional intimacy in our marriage relationships. Now, if you're married and you're thinking about the level of satisfaction, or if you had to scale the level of satisfaction that you're experiencing in your marriage from 1 to 10, where would you place it? As you think about that, I want you to consider this article by Dr. Clara on Psychology Today, where she goes through and she explains what emotional intimacy is and how couples can experience it in their marriage and how it can really help them to experience a much more fulfilling, a deeper connection, and a much happier marriage. She actually takes quite a deep dive into the topic, and she goes through a few things that may prevent people from experiencing that emotional intelligence. One of the biggest issues that stand in the way of preventing people from experiencing that deep level of connection that comes from emotional intimacy is their unwillingness or inability to be vulnerable with each other. Couples really need to put all their cards on the table, as it were, and just throw themselves into the relationship and be totally vulnerable with their spouse. So this is the article from on Psychology Today, and it is by Cara Gardenswartz, PhD. She's a psychologist and a psychotherapist. She's focusing on helping individuals, couples, and group therapy. And she's talking about emotional intimacy and referring to it as being the foundation of deep, fulfilling connection between two individuals. Well, Cara, I agree with you 100%. Emotional intimacy is very important within a marriage relationship. And it is the degree or the level of emotional intimacy that will determine the difference between a marriage that is not so um, strong and deep and joyful and full of respect and trust and all those positive things, and one that isn't or doesn't have those qualities. And so we're going to be looking at Kara's article then. So first of all, she talks about what emotional intimacy is, and it is about this being vulnerable with each other. You will have to be willing to kind of hand yourself over to your spouse and just give them your all, meaning all your thoughts, all your concerns. Be willing to share these things with your spouse. Some people might find it difficult to be emotionally vulnerable, and that is going to be a huge hindrance in your relationship. She does go on down below in this same article to talk about a few barriers that may cause hindrance to the emotional intimacy. So, in terms of a few pointers for making for experiencing that emotional intimacy, I'm going to touch on, which is shared with us, 6 points that I'm going to touch on from this article now. The first one is open communications of your feelings. So, this idea of being vulnerable allows you to be able to open up and share those thoughts and feelings and experiences that you're experiencing. And being willing to do that, actually, and going out on a limb and allowing your spouse to know that you have that level of trust in them will actually create an opportunity for them to likewise open up with you and experience that vulnerability as well. And so you're both kind of building up this level of trust and vulnerability and actually helping to strengthen the relationship. And so just being willing to be vulnerable and being open with your feelings is an important factor. I love the fact that she's got John Gottman here and she's quoting an article from him. We all know how much I love John Gottman and his work on relationships. The second point that she refers to is this idea of being in the moment. Quite often, people can be a little bit distracted and not be in the moment when they're with their companions. And this is a big issue. And this is going to prevent you from being at a level, because to be emotionally or to be vulnerable with your spouse or your partner requires you to invest emotionally. And if you're not present, you're not going to be able to do that. You'll be lacking, and your spouse, the other person, they'll feel it. They'll say, this, I don't have, he's on his phone, he's looking at he's texting his emails. I don't have his attention. And so being present is very important. And so the third point that she shares here is on showing affection physically and verbally. Now, touch is a very important part of emotional intimacy, and that can display itself in terms of hugs and kisses, cuddles, verbal words of affirmation. This is drawing us back to the sound relationship house theory. She talks about the release of oxytocin, that love hormone that gets the couple to experience that really strong sense of bond and emotional closeness. Um, The fourth thing that she touches on is prioritizing time together. Everyone loves a bit of spontaneity and novelty and excitement. Planning actually facilitates spontaneity, and so it's important to plan time together and maybe have a weekly or monthly schedule and then stick to it and just have as much enjoyable time together as possible. This is an important part of experiencing the emotional intimacy and building that level of trust with each other. In her fifth point, she talks about gratitude as being an important part of experiencing that emotional intimacy with your spouse. It fosters feelings of safety and emotional closeness. I agree with this wholeheartedly. I think that it is possible to stay negative and focus on the negative aspects of your spouse and your circumstances and your relationship. Doing that will hinder the level of intimacy that you want to experience. And gratitude is such an emotional strong point that gets you into the zone of being appreciative. And by being appreciative, you're going to be more. And the studies have shown that gratitude is an important part of being, having better well-being as an individual. And that gratitude, the subject of your gratitude is your spouse, and that experience of gratitude will manifest itself, and they will know that actually I'm with someone who really loves and appreciates me. Point number six that she touches on is about seeking professional help. And as a relationship coach, I know the benefit that can be received from couples as they come to me as a professional to experience help in building their communication, their emotional intimacy, and strengthening their marriage. And I'm going to touch on that a little bit more in this video. So, what are some barriers that may hinder the emotional intimacy that you may have or may want to have with your spouse? Past traumas can be a big issue. Past traumas may include experiences of abuse and neglect that may have a hindering effect on an individual's ability to open up and to be vulnerable with their spouse, and so creating a barrier between experiencing that deep level of emotional intimacy. Some individuals' attachment styles may also be an issue. If you're a secure attached, if you're categorized as being securely attached, then you'll find it easy to be open and be willing to be more vulnerable with your spouse. Someone who is avoidant or someone who's anxious, of a more anxious or avoidant attachment style, may struggle with intimacy on that level, and so that may be a hindrance. And this is something that we help couples work through in my couples coaching program. A lack of communication. So the communication itself is a very important factor that leads to emotional intimacy. And if you are not able to properly communicate or feel that your communication, there's a hindrance between your communication with you and your spouse. I mean, she says here that certain communication habits, such as assuming that your partner knows what you're thinking and can read your mind, might be creating a bit of an hindrance in preventing you from experiencing that deeper level of communication. And then she focuses on some benefits of emotional intimacy that you will experience. Your life satisfaction will be greater. Your relationship, your marriage will be healthier and happier. You'll be in sync with each other. And you'll just be a happier couple. All aspects of your relationship will vastly improve. So this is an article that I agree with very much. Dr. Cara, thank you for sharing your thoughts. So as you can see, she really did a deep dive into emotional intimacy. And I really agree with everything that she said there. But I want to talk to you about an even better way. As a relationship coach, what I do is I take my couples through an 8-week coaching program where I allow them on the first week to experience a better understanding of each other. They understand each other's love language and each other's attachment style. And knowing your spouse's love language and attachment style will allow you the ability to be able to relate better to them in a way that is unique to them. So after that, they're able to make some covenants with each other by first exploring what each other's desires and expectations are of the other person and of the relationship. And then they start making some covenants. And these covenants allow them to draft up the terms and agreements of their new and improved marriage. This vulnerability, this trust, this willingness to open up with your spouse and have these really deep and meaningful conversations will lead you into making agreements that will allow you to be able to experience that fulfillment in your marriage that you've always wanted. I would love to explain more and tell you how it works. Please go ahead and contact me if you have any questions. My contact details are below, and I look forward to hearing from you. Have a wonderful day.